So, first of all, we're covering three movies in this episode, and we'd like to continue our awards coverage with actually one of the most popular movies nominated in terms of the amount of nominations it received, and that's Killers of the Flower Moon. So, funnily enough, this movie dropped in October, but we haven't gotten the chance to really discuss it properly yet. And so, you saw it when it came out in theaters as well, or did you watch it at the
Mhm.
digital?
So I saw it in theaters, but I've also seen it since once it was
Mhm.
out at home. So I've seen it twice now.
Yeah, it's a long one. Like it definitely prefer when theaters don't have intermissions because
Yeah.
it just lets like the pace of the movie flow well. But I could feel that it was 3 hours at least. But when it's a good movie, it's not that much of a problem. And especially with this case, like Scorsese has been usually he's like a movie every 3 years, 4 years now. And I could absolutely understand why he took so long with this one. We always say this when he makes a new one, but it's one of his most grand movies, but in a very different way. Usually we see violence as something not glamorized, but in the sort of cool gangster way in some
Mhm.
of his other crime films. In this, it's very much about you know people doing they're all doing vile things, but in this one, it's about people stealing things that don't belong to them by inflicting terror on innocents. And I didn't really know much about this story overall, but you had read the book how long prior?
I read the book like right before the movie. So I tried to see the movie, right after finishing the book. I try to time it like that. So yeah, so going into it, I did know what was going to happen. But the book is different because it's written like as a mystery. So you don't know who is killing these people. And so when you find out that Ernest Burkhart is one of the killers, like it's a shock in the book. And so I was surprised that the movie doesn't frame it that way at all. But I love the way the movie was framed, though, and I loved that we do see it from the perspective of Ernest and William Hale, and that we see their intentions the whole time. So I know some people who are fans of the book really disliked that change, but I thought it worked. And it is fitting for Scorsese, right? Because he usually does focus on the villains. But like you said, with this case, there is like they're so much more dislikable, like more so than like
Yeah.
Goodfellas or whatever, where you can kind of like the characters, whereas here, like, they're just horrible people, especially William Hale.
Yeah, I think in the other movies you can see um like Robert De Niro go and like shoot some guy he doesn't like, and it's like, and at the end you're like, oh, that was a cool like flashy movie. In this one, it really got under my skin,
Yeah.
especially because it's true.
Yeah.
Speaking of that change from the book, I had heard about that after I saw it. And honestly, it was a surprise to me as well because I didn't even know from the trailers that Ernest Burkhart was involved in the conspiracy.
Yeah.
I thought like the trailer made it look like he was the hero that was going to stop everything, but he's really like easily manipulated by his uncle. He's very naive, but he does
Mhm.
genuinely love Molly Burkhart. Leonardo DiCaprio, I think, is first of all really terrific because first of all, I love whenever he puts on the southern accent. He
Mm.
did it really well in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. In a way, you do pity Ernest Burkhart because he just doesn't isn't too able to stand up for himself
Yeah,
for
he's
a
such a
while.
weak, has such a
Yeah,
weak backbone.
he's very like he's healthy, but he's like physically he acts frail. He's not too confident, and I think he did that brilliantly. And De Niro, I saw some people saying this is their favorite De Niro performance of the 21st century, which I would have to think about because he's also wonderful in The Irishman, but he's just so, I guess, vile. He's the mastermind behind all these horrific tragedies.
Yeah, and I do have, for your listeners, I do have a video talking about Killers of the Flower Moon, and it's one of my longer ones because there is just so much to say about it. But yeah, with Ernest Burkhart in the movie, which can we like get into spoilers? Is that
Yeah, from now on, spoiler warning if you have not seen The Killers of the Flower Moon or read the
because in the
book.
movie, a huge part is the fact that he's giving her poison with her insulin, right? And that isn't
Mhm.
like Molly was being poisoned, but obviously we don't know what was going on behind closed doors. And Molly led a very private life. And so we don't know like specifically what went on with that. But the movie highlighting that and how that was something that he could never be honest about Um, but yeah, his character was so interesting because, like you said, it seems like part of him did care about Molly and he loved her, and yet he was able to like compartmentalize things in such a scary way because he's acting like he loves her while at the same time he's killing everyone in her family and poisoning her. And then with William Hale, it in real life and in the movie, there's parts where it seems like he actually thinks he is like helping the Osage in a way, or like he thinks that they really aren't up to having all of this land and money, so he's like doing them a favor. And in real life and in the movie, even after he was out of prison and people knew what he did, he would still be like, "Oh, the Osage, they're the best people in the world, and I'm such good friends with them, and oh, they're amazing." And it's like, wait, what? Like, so both of them just, I don't know what they had going on mentally. I feel like William Hale must have been some kind of psychopath or something, but
Yeah, so Ernest, like you said, I think he does genuinely love Molly the way Leonardo DiCaprio portrays it. But maybe there's something like, as long as he's not actually carrying out the killings with his own hands, he's fine. Like, he's still entitled to his marriage with her. And then William Hale, yeah, he has all these scenes where he's meeting with the Osage leaders, and he's like, "I will have your back, no matter what," all while he's plotting against their existence. And you obviously have that scene where he's like watching the footage from the Tulsa massacre, or when he's watching the fire that he's causing in order to get the money. And there's this look from his performance that's like a mix of vile and cruelty and indifference, which
yeah.
is really interesting that the movie plays with that. So, by the way, is the book from the perspective of like Jesse Plemons' character? Because I remember that was originally DiCaprio's role, and that was originally how the movie was going to go too.
Yeah, Tom White, he is a much bigger role in the book, and we hear so much more about his life and about the making of the FBI, because this was like the first big FBI case. So it's told from like a research nonfiction narrative where it's just David Grann sharing the research. So it's not told from anyone's specific perspective. But yeah, we do hear way more about him. And so, yeah, I did read that originally Jesse Plemons, I guess, was going to be Ernest and DiCaprio was going to be Tom White. But I heard DiCaprio was
Oh,
the
yeah.
one who was like, actually, we should switch it. Like, I want to play Ernest. And I heard that he was involved in the changing of the way the story was formatted. But yeah, also, like, I think it's insane that Leonardo DiCaprio didn't get an Oscar nomination because he was amazing. Like, I think he was, if I had to choose between the two, I think he deserved a nomination more than De Niro personally. And yeah, the way he shows also like his self loathing, like, he clearly hates what he's doing, and yet he's still doing it. And the part where he drinks the poison himself, too. And then, yeah, and then as he like opens up and confesses everything, and that final scene between he and Molly where she's trying to get him to admit that he was poisoning her and he just can't. And when they arrest him from like the pool hall and he's kind of drunk and they're making him stay standing, like he just conveys so many emotions, and he was just fantastic. So I don't know how he did not get nominated.
Yeah, so let's go into this part of the episode. So, of this part of our Flower Moon discussion. So, Killers of the Flower Moon is nominated 10 times, but obviously, I think we'd all agree that the biggest miss is Leonardo DiCaprio for Best Actor.
Yeah.
We have Bradley Cooper nominated for Maestro, Coleman Domingo for Rustin, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. And I think maybe the thing that helped these other nominees, first of all, people like Coleman Domingo and Jeffrey Wright being like really respected artists who the Academy voters were like now rushing to give them their first nomination. And I think they both definitely deserved that
Mm-hmm.
for their respective films. If anything, I would have maybe put DiCaprio over Jeffrey Wright in American Fiction. And he's now finally an Oscar nominee after such an
Yeah.
interesting career. Like, I'm still happy either way, but
Yeah.
definitely I think Leo's amazing. I think maybe this could make my top 10 performances of his, because I just love the way he portrays like foolish and self-loathing, a little bit like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, minus like any skill that he has, because it's also like this southern guy who's kind of just really naive and a little frail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that man, I feel like 2023 was a great year for movies because that is a great lineup.
Mm.
The only one, actually, I haven't seen Rustin, but I do love Coleman Domingo, so I'm happy to see him there. I have not
It's
seen The
really good.
Holdovers.
It's
Oh yeah, yeah, I need
Holdovers
to
is
watch that.
wonderful. Rustin is really good, but I wouldn't like put it next to Killers of the Flower Moon or Holdovers. He definitely deserved the nomination too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I haven't seen The Holdovers, so I don't have an opinion on that one. I keep meaning to watch it, but yeah, so it's hard to say who I would remove in order to get DiCaprio in there. Part of me, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I liked Maestro, but I think Carey Mulligan, that was the performance that impressed me even more than
Mhm.
Bradley Cooper, I would say. So even though everybody is saying that was like such an Oscar bait performance, I feel like DiCaprio was a better performance than Bradley Cooper in Maestro personally.
Okay,
So maybe
fair.
he's the one that I would get rid of.
You would say that. Fair enough. So the movie's again nominated for a lot of technical categories: cinematography, editing. The legendary Thelma Schoonmaker, who's edited a lot of Scorsese's films, production design, costume design, original score posthumously for Robbie Robertson.
Mm.
Do we think this could take home any wins? Because right now, I feel like its best bet is in winning Best Actress, because I think right now it's looking like 50-50 between Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone for Poor Things. But Lily Gladstone, I think, first of all, she's so incredible, and there's so much weight and loss that she has to deal with. But also the significance culturally and representation wise, I think may get Academy voters to want to give this to her. Not that she wouldn't be deserving, but that may give her the edge over
Yeah.
Emma Stone.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting she's in leading actress because I get she's the main actress in Flower Moon, but she's in so little of the movie compared to like DiCaprio and De Niro, for example. So I was assuming she was going to be in supporting actress. But putting her up against Emma Stone, because like I said, Carey Mulligan was amazing, but I feel like it really comes down to Gladstone and Emma Stone. So yeah, that is so tough. Part of me wants to say Emma Stone, but the
Yeah.
performances that we're comparing are so different because, like you said, Lily
Right.
Gladstone, she's so much more subdued and yet she's able to convey so much. Whereas Emma Stone is like doing so much. So it's hard to compare, but also Emma Stone already has an Oscar. So some people will see
Yeah.
that and be like, well, Lily Gladstone doesn't have one yet. So let's give it to her.
Yeah, that was sort of a thing last year when it was like Kate Blanchett versus Michelle Yeoh, and Kate
Mm,
Blanchett had already won, and Michelle Yeoh ended up getting the edge. But I do support Gladstone being in lead. I think she's like, at least I haven't seen it twice yet, but I remember her being having a lot of screen time and being such a huge part of the film. And she's also very much the heart of the movie, which is
that's true.
the only main character that you can really understand and empathize with too. But in terms of the technical categories, it's nominated for stuff like cinematography, editing, production design, costume design, original score, and original song. Do we think it's taking home any of that?
I mean, I should see with production design, like who that's going against. I also think it's weird it didn't get adapted screenplay. Like, I know
Yeah,
maybe that's partly because Barbie was an adapted screenplay. If Barbie was an original, maybe Flower Moon would be an adapted. But I thought that was crazy
yeah.
because I thought it was a fantastic screenplay. So
Mhm.
I feel like that was also unfair. I've heard, so I was watching another YouTuber, her name is Impression Blend, and she
Oh
was
yeah,
saying
I
the
know
zone
her.
of interest shouldn't have been on there and they should have had Flower Moon because the zone of interest is also based on a book, but that the movie just strayed from the book a lot. And so, as far as adapting screenplay, Flower Moon stayed closer to the real story and was a better screenplay. So, that was her opinion. But
I will say in the meantime, I do think the Zone of Interest is much more of a filmmaking movie, while Flower Moon has like so much more dialogue that I would have probably put it in screenplay, even if Zone of Interest is still an amazing movie. It's just a lot less about the dialogue. Like I look back, even De Niro has that monologue where he's saying like that like their time has come and it's past, and that they'll be forgotten and all that. He has this monologue to DiCaprio. I thought there's some really good writing from
yeah,
Scorsese and Eric Roth here.
Yeah, and like I said, in the book, it is written in like a research type of way. And so he's not creating any conversations that he doesn't know for a fact happened. And so the fact that Eric Roth, he is, taking the facts we know and creating these conversations and assuming what happened. And yeah, I just thought he did an amazing job. So yeah, I was very impressed.
Yeah. So in terms of some of the other technical categories, like I do think a lot of them might, like other films might get the edge over these, like cinematography and editing, Oppenheimer, production design, maybe Poor Things, costume design, probably Barbie or Poor Things, original score. Again, think Ludwig Göransson might deserve the win for Oppenheimer, but considering he's won before, they might want to give the posthumous honor to Robbie Robertson.
Yeah.
Sometimes they like to work with like honoring people posthumously. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it'll win anything else.
I did love the music in Poor Things. I thought that was
Yeah,
fantastic. But the music in the score for Killers of the Flower Moon was really good too. Original song, I was surprised that we didn't get like Color Purple. They had a song that was original to the movie, and yet they didn't even get
yeah.
nominated for that.
Any closing thoughts about Flower Moon before we do that?
I mean, I love how many nominations it did get, so I hope it wins
Yeah.
something. I personally am not a fan of when there's like an Oscar sweep. Like even last year, I loved Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I kind of hated that it won so much. Like spread the love. Like other things can win too.
I
And
totally
so
agree.
I hope it's not like some kind of like Oppenheimer sweep or something. Cause even if I thought it was a good movie, I'm like, there's so many good movies. Like let someone else win some of these other things. So I really hope Killers of the Flower Moon wins something,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, I'm like, even if you give Oppenheimer cinematography and director, like give Poor Things production design, give this actress something like that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's some awards ceremony, I forget what it was now, but they do have a rule where a movie can only win so many awards as a way to make sure it is
Interesting.
spread out. I don't remember
Okay.
if it was the BAFTAs or it was some other, maybe not the BAFTAs, but
BAFTAs
anyway.
are in their own world. That wouldn't surprise me if they did something like that.
Yeah.